to do data analysis. Feel free to comment in the chat, feel free to ask. So I think let's get started. Host disabled participant. Oh,
Let me give you permission.
okay, thank you.
You should be able to share now.
Oh, perfect, thank you. So I hope you can see my screen. All this will be shared. So today we are going to do some analysis of the Google and the Apple Play Store, the Play Store apps, so that we can see. Okay, our aim in this project, if you read through, but I'm not going to read through, our aim is to help an organization, okay, know what application to build that is free and in English, and that can, it's free and in English, okay? So our aim is, as much as it's free, we want to attract as many people to download it and to install it so that we can make money. You know, when an application is free, then you make revenue through other means, okay? So by people downloading it or engaging with it, then there are ads that you make money through ads and the downloads, okay? But not necessarily through selling the app. So basically that's it. So we want to know which kind of applications would we want to create, but that is going to be based on the kinds of the categories of applications that are most in demand, okay, that are most downloaded. We want them to be both free and in English, okay? So yeah, the data sets, I downloaded the data sets, so we can start here. We'll start by opening and exploring the two data sets, okay? Both for Android and the iOS apps, yeah? To make them easier for you to explore, and we create a function named explore data. That function is already given to us, that you can repeatedly use to print in to print the rows in a readable way. So this session is going to help you appreciate the next session, okay? Because this is the hard way. Like, we would take a full day on this, and yet the next session everything is encapsulated. Like, everything becomes a little bit easier because you're importing libraries and using libraries. So not to dwell on that, that is the function, and we shall just copy it when the time comes. So that function takes in 4 parameters: a data set, which is expected to be a list of lists, the start and end. The start and end, that's in terms of a slice. You will see how it works: the starting point, the starting index, and the ending index, okay? I hope I'm not rushing, eh? Yeah, so the rows and columns, which is expected to be a Boolean, has false as the default argument. Slices, yeah, that part I've explained. So also the print at the end. Okay, let's look at the function and try to explain it. So the data set, which is a list of lists, the starting index, the ending index, and the rows and columns, okay? Then the data set slice, okay, is at what point, while I'm working in this function, at what point do I want to start or end? But you would have given it as a parameter in the what? In the function, if you call the function, okay? So for the row in a data set slice, so that's after you have decided which part of the data set you want to work with, you print the row, then print /n means that leave a line, okay? Like how you do it with HTML. When you /n, now this is the one for Python. You do print in quotation /n. Okay, so if row and columns, that is if this is true, okay, if you're seeing my cursor, then you print the number of rows, okay, and the number of columns. Remember, it's a list of lists, so the number will just be the number of rows will just be the length of the data set, and the number of columns will just be the length of one of the what? Of the rows, okay? Because the column is yeah, you understand me. I may not dwell too much on it. So that to do, open the two data sets we mentioned above, save them both as lists of lists, okay? Then the app store data is, it gives you a step by, this notebook gives you a step-by-step follow through on how to solve the problems, okay? The app store data set is stored in a CSV file named appstore.csv, and the Google is also saved in Google Play Store.csv. Both CSV files can be opened directly in Jupyter Notebook interface you see on, okay, that is, yeah, just here, Jupyter Notebook interface. Okay, you can run into an error, so that's if you're running it. Okay, so if we get to that to do, they have told us to open the two data sets above. So I was thinking of doing it separately, but how about we create a function, okay, since we learned all about functions. Then we say define data set, okay. Okay, I can say open data set, okay. In this data set, it takes in a CSV. So we say takes a CSV. When it takes a CSV, okay, no, let me do this. Let me first do this to that, so that we can understand how all this is coming up. From first principles, if we want to open a CSV file without using any libraries, I can say that for the Apple one, I can say Apple dataset is equal to open, okay, open, then that its CSV file, I have it in, oh wait, I can't switch. Okay, I have it in the same folder, so I'll just say Apple it's called Apple. I hope it's the right word. Wait 1 minute. Yeah, it's called Apple Store, like that. That is the, okay, so when I open it, this is what I get. Oh, nothing. So that is me opening it, but I want to read it. So before I read it, I'm going to import from CSV. I'm going to import the reader. Okay, sorry. Okay, after importing the reader, then I'm going to read the file that I have opened. So take it as I have a book, I want to open that book. So when I open that book, I want to read that book. So after reading that book, whatever I have found in that book, I want to read it row by row, okay, in a certain order.
So,
So the Apple, yes?
Sandra, sorry to interrupt. Can we ask questions as you go on?
Yes, please.
Okay. So mine is simple. I hope it helps out everyone. Is open a Python function.
It's a CSV function.
It's a CSV function. Okay.
Yeah, but I think in this case it comes in built,
Into Jupyter.
in the Jupyter notebook.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I think CSV comes in built. I don't know. Because normally I would just import CSV, but I tried it in the morning, then I saw I could actually just open,
Okay.
okay,
All right.
the file.
All right. Thank you.
So after, you're welcome. After opening, then from CSV import, reader. So now I'm going to read. So if I say Apple, Apple read, or read Apple, whatever you choose to say, reader. Now I want to read what I opened, okay? Okay. So after reading what I've opened, let me just do this so that we see what is in there. That way I don't. It's a CSV, so it can't open. Okay. This is first you open, then you read. Then the next step, what you're going to do is you're going to convert whatever you have read into a list, because now it's in form of a CSV object, okay? So if I call it as Apple list, I'm going to call list. You remember what you learned earlier? Apple, the Apple read, okay? What I'm reading. So I have that. Now this is printable. So if I say print Apple list, and like we were told earlier, if we just look up, after you have read that, you have both CSV files can be opened directly in here. So here you have been told to open them and and save them both as lists. So this is what we are doing. Now we are done with that first part. So if I print out, you realize I have a whole lot long list, okay? If I just take, remember a list, you can slice it. So if I take like two, sorry, one, oh, no, dot two. If I take like two up to index two, okay, two, then that's what I'll have, okay? Why I'm doing this is because I want us to see the structure. So it becomes a list of lists. This is one list that ends somewhere here. Then the next list starts and ends somewhere here. Then the next list starts and ends somewhere here, okay? And we realize that according to our explore data function, the first one is the columns, okay? So we can come back here and say that header Apple header is equal to Apple list the first index, okay? Then the rest, the Apple data set. So Apple, let us just call it Apple, is equal to Apple list, then the rest. So we start from 1 and onwards, okay? So now this is what they wanted us to do. They wanted us to open the two data sets, okay, which we have opened, and we have saved them both as lists. And then we have gone ahead to divide them between the header alone and the data set alone without the header, because if we are going to carry out any operations, we do not need the header, since in the case of plain Python, the data structure changes. The data type, sorry, is changing, because the headers are strings, and then the ones that follow below, you can see some numbers, you can see some strings, so things are going to be changing, okay? That's why we have divided that too. So but before that, okay, all this was just aimed at giving us the structure of how we want our function to look like, okay? So we want our function, now if we can go back to the function and sort of comment this out, we want our function, oh, God, sorry. We want our function to take in a CSV file, okay? Then open it, so we can say opened, okay? Opened is equal to open the CSV, okay? No, we shall be putting it as a string. Okay, open the CSV. So this line is catered for. Where is it? This line is catered for. The import statement, we can put it outside the function. Okay, now this is what they call, is it restructuring? You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
So we have opened the CSV. Then now we want to read the CSV. So read file is equal to reader. The same thing, we are just giving it better structure so that we can reuse it. That is where code reuse comes in. So that, opened. Okay, so we have finished this part. We can remove that. Then the next thing is to convert it to a list. So I can call it my list. Or file list. File list is equal to list. And inside you do read file, okay? Then this is also done. So at the end of it all, we want this, we don't need. So at the end of it, we want to return two things, the header and the data set itself. So what we can do is, what is this? Header is equal to file list. I'm just doing the same thing, it's just that we are going to use it for many. Okay, file list, the first one. Then the data set is equal to, what is that word? Is equal to file list, sorry. File list 1 and onwards. Okay, so when we are returning, we return the data set, because in our case, that is what is quite important. Okay, we return the data set. If you want to return the header, you can just return the header. You can even return both of them, but returning both of them, I think then we just print out. I'm not sure. Okay, or you can print one, then you return one. So before returning the data set, you can say print.
And
Yes.
so wouldn't it be wise to use data science technical terms like observations, maybe, for like header? I don't know. Is that something that you can consider?
I don't know.
Yeah, because
I don't know if have they been introduced to that. I think that would come in when it comes to pandas. So they appreciate that now the header is, because the header would actually be a header. When you're told open a CSV file, it's referred to as a header.
okay.
That the observations are referred, no, the observations are the rows. So I've forgotten the term for header, yeah, but it's referred to, whatever the header is referred to, the features, sorry, the features is the header. So on the other side, they can understand that, okay, now the features is the header. Why is it my thing charging?
Okay. So I think that's important to know as we go on. Thank you.
Okay, so the terms I'm using are for Python, okay, just plain Python. So when you go to the data science, when it gets too much into data science, like with pandas, then you will use other terms, but you will understand why I was using header or data set or something, because if I use those terms, then in case you're faced with a plain CSV thing, you might not consider using the header yet. That is what it should actually be, if I can put it that way. So now that we have written a function, we are going to we are going to
Sandra, how did you share before?
1 minute, 1 minute.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. So I was saying, if you still want to know how I shared,
Yeah, because you don't seem to be able to share another window, so to say. Did you share the entire screen?
I don't I don't remember.
Okay. I mean, I thought you wanted to share something else, but go.
No,
You
no.
can. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. No, I don't want to share something else. So after we have this, now we can call, like you remember how you do function calls. So we can say Apple, okay? Apple is equal to open data, data set, okay? Then inside here we put, okay? If I run this prints out that, but inside it's if I call the apple itself, okay, it returns to me a whole lot of, because the apple itself is supposed to return the data set. So if I cut this down to, for instance, 3, okay, it returns a list of only 3. I hope that makes sense. So with that in mind, we can do the same for Android, which is Google. Android. Oh, what did I do? Control C. Perfect. Thank you. So Android. My God, what am I writing? Okay, Android. So for Android, we do the same thing. Open. We call the open data set function, and then that will, in it, we call the Google. How was it saved? Sorry, I'm trying to find how it's saved. How the Google dataset is saved. Apple.csv or file name. Okay. All this can be found in your we are going to put everything on GitHub, so you can find both the CSV and the notebook. So when we run this, we get the row columns are the column headers are printed out for both the Google one and the Apple one. So in between here I can put Can put like a separator. Perfect. So that's it. Okay, so we are done with the first part. The second part is, I hope, do we have any questions here? Please type in the chat. Do we have any questions? If we're okay,
So
say
I think Tracy was still confused about what a header is. So
what
maybe
I had.
if you could
So,
get out your CSV file and show her.
okay, then I think I have to do it the other way. Okay. Let me stop share. I hope I can still go back to sharing.
Of course.
So if you are suggesting I share how? Optimize screen sharing with video clip. No, those are the only options.
Okay.
Optimize and share computer sound.
No. Share screen. It's okay. No, I was.
I share screen the normal way.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, then let me share. But I think I'm going to have to keep going back and forth. So if I open this Apple CSV, sorry, I'm on Linux, so my things look a certain way. This first line, the row one, you see it has ID, track name, those things, okay? So
Wait,
that is,
we don't see anything.
you're not seeing?
No, we're just seeing where it has Apple Store.csv. Basically, your folder.
Oh, God, no, I think I should, okay, new share,
Oh,
sorry.
okay. I don't know if you shared the entire screen, so that would.
I did. It doesn't give me that option. Okay, let me
Oh,
first stop all the sharing.
We could see it now though.
it's okay. We can see it. We could see it. So you can go back to.
These expensive things are difficult for me. Anyway, yeah, can we see it now? The CSV thing.
Yes.
Okay, so it's in this format, Tracy. The first row is a row of the it's called a header because it is the column headings, if I can put it in plain language. You get? So if, for instance, I had a CSV without row one, and my row two was row one, I wouldn't need to have a head, I wouldn't need to define a header, okay? Because everything would be the same. But the reason why we are defining a header is because the first row is the column heading. So it is different from the rest of the rows. Does that make sense, Tracy? Hi.
Yes, she says it does.
Okay, so let me stop share and we go back. Okay, so hi.
Yellow, go on. We haven't
You
seen.
can see my screen?
Not yet.
Oh. Kathy, I'm going to need a tutorial on this thing, for sure. So explore data. So now that we have this figured out, okay, we have saved our data sets in Android and Apple. So now the next thing we are going to do is we are going to use the explore data function to print out the first few rows and find the number of rows in each data set. So in this case, we are not going to do anything. Okay, we are just going to utilize what is already available. As per what Eve shared, if you can look at how this has been written, it also gives you a picture into how to write code in Markdown. let us not go there. Okay. So if we put this here, I just copied it and pasted it. So if we put this here, which is the explore data function, so we want to call it, to print few rows of each data set, okay? So if I run that, okay. If I run that, after running this, I want to be able to print out for each data set, okay? But remember, my data sets are saved in Android and Apple. So what I do here, I call the explore data. So I can start with, for Apple, okay? For Apple, I'll call explore data. Then I give it the Apple data set, okay? Then the start and the end, remember we already fixed this, eh? We fixed all this at the beginning. So, oh, I think I didn't. Okay, I'm going to explain it. We had fixed this all at the beginning, but I think it's not going to help. Anyway, it's okay. We can still do it this way. So, data set start, the starting one is 1. Why? Because from 1 is where we want to pick, okay? So print, but remember we have been told to print the first few rows, okay? So this is, I can't use that example. Okay, so we are printing from starting index 1, okay, to, for instance, starting index 3. So if we say 3, remember it stops at the starting index 2, eh? So we are going to expect 2 rows, okay? Then we are going to say, oh, the rows and columns by default is false. So if we can remind ourselves up here, we were to find the number of rows and columns. Recall the function assumes that the argument for the dataset parameter does not have a header row. Yes, which ours doesn't have, okay? So the rows and columns is false. I think we can run that. So if we run this, okay, it's going to print for us the row, comma, the next row. If I had many, it would print as many rows, but like I said, since we said 1 to 3, 3 exclusive, then it's going to print only 2 rows. So that is how they look like. But since rows and columns by default is false, then it does not return anything for me, okay? But if I want that to be returned, I can add an argument, true. So it prints for me the number of rows and the number of columns. And remember, that is what was required as per the question. Find the number of rows and columns for each data set. So that was for the Apple one. And if we move on to the Google one, okay, do exactly the same. That is the beauty of functions, or of, yeah, functions. So here the data set is Android, okay? So when we run it, Google has 10,841 observations, which are the rows, okay? And 13 features, which are the columns. That, if we talk about it, data science style, it's features, okay, for the columns. So after we have seen that, that means we have satisfied the requirement for our number 2. So number 3 is asking us to print the column names and try to identify the columns that could help us with our analysis. Use the documentation of data sets. If you're having trouble understanding what column describes, what each column describes, add a link to the documentation for readers if you think the column names. Okay, I think we are not going to do this. I don't know if I can even read it. We are not going to do that because we have done a bit of it here, okay? So these are the column names for Apple. If I can put here print. Print Apple. Print Google, okay? So if I print this out again, so these are the rows for Apple and these are the rows for columns. But remember, we want a free app, so price is going to help us with Apple. And when we look at Google as well, price is going to help us, okay? Then we want the most highly rated apps, okay, to determine which categories are best. So rating count, yeah, it is rating count and the track name, okay, are going to help us. If I just look at it, it's not like it's gospel truth, but just by looking at it, you start realizing some of the things that you're going to need and some that you might not necessarily need, okay? So then you will also see something, this language, okay? And here it's I'm not saying how it's called, but we shall find out. We can know, okay, is this English, is this not English? So depending, the same thing happens here. We have category, we have rating, we have reviews. All these things are going to help us because with category, we shall know which category is highly rated, is highly downloaded, installs, you get, so that we know which is most in demand, okay? Yeah, the price goes for the same. We are going to use the price to determine which ones are free and which ones are not. So if we move on, I think that this part has been answered with that. So if we move on to data cleaning, because I think my time is up, but if I can just get into data cleaning briefly. So with everything, there's a description, okay? So the first part of data cleaning is going to check any missing values. Then you will see, there's a link I've shared here. So according to their discussion, from from Kaggle, you will realize that there's a missing column in Google, in the Android dataset, okay? So after you read, you will know which particular row has the missing value, okay? So briefly, just passing through it so that at least you can have a starting point when you're working on it. So when you read through, you find the row that has a missing value. But what you do is you don't know whether they numbered it according with the header or without the header. So you check both plus one or without, okay? That value of the header plus one or without. So you will use this function, the inbuilt function delete, okay? So in this case, you will write something like this. So delete, okay? Delete from Android. I don't remember the name. The value was something like 7 something something, okay? I'm not sure, but when you read through, you will find it. So when you run this cell, it will automatically delete that one with missing values. So you will have started your data cleaning. Data cleaning is about knowing what to do with missing values, knowing what to do with duplicates, you get. So after you have deleted that, then now you move on. Read the discussion section for Apple and see to find whatever reports are there, okay? But with Apple, there was no missing values, okay? So then you move on to removing duplicates. To remove duplicates, you will notice that some apps have duplicates. Then, I don't know, Eve, am I rushing? Hi.
Hi. It's okay. This is just going through, and then
Okay.
I think you can go into detail the next time maybe we meet if everyone agrees that you need to go through it.
But for us to go through it the next time we meet, I think it would be better if they tried,
Yes.
because it basically tells you what to do. Because you've seen I have copied, I have pasted code, I
Right.
have read what they are telling me to do, and it's what I'm doing. Okay, like it's a step by step. It's not how the real world will really do its thing. They will just tell you do this, then you have to do that. You get? So I think if I can sort of conclude, you will read through, okay, all the notes before a certain to do, then it will give you what to do. And in case of any questions, feel free to ask, because I believe that is a better way to learn than me coming and giving you all the solutions. Because earlier I asked if I could just, if time fails, I could just share the solutions. But at a certain point, I feel like it will not allow you to grow. It will not allow you to stretch your muscles, your learning muscles. And yet it's through that stretch that you will become better. Okay, so you can suggest how you feel in the feedback session. Then we see what best to do for you. Otherwise, I appreciate the time I've spent with you, Kathy, or over to you, Eve.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Sandra. And one thing I didn't say when we started is that a thank you as well to all those that tried out the 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 to-dos, the one for week 1 and the one for week 2. For week 2 we had only Tracy, I think, try out. And thank you for trying out. I was told by the facilitator that you did a good job, so thank you. But for week 2, I think you can now already mark yourself as to those that have done something. Yeah. Yes. Hi Daisy. Was it you or Tracy that? Okay. I'm talking about week 3, I think. For week 2, yes, there are many more peers, I think. There are many more people that tried out. But for week 3, the one that we are on today, I think it must have been only Tracy or Daisy. I've forgotten. Maybe the facilitator can correct me. So Kathy.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cathy Tushabe. I'll be your facilitator for today, going through the week 3 content. So before I go on, I want to know like how far, like what everyone did. So I've prepared some polls so that I can get an idea. I'm going to launch the first one. So just quickly give in your answers and then we can go on. So the first poll is asking what materials you use to study the week 3 content. So just quickly select the one that works for that you used. Only 2 people have. Does that mean did you use the videos? Did you use the written resources, or did you use none of them? It should flash it should have flashed on your screen.
Guys, you even have option 3 of none. Eh? If you use none.
Yes,
Yes.
we see it.
Daisy, I don't understand your question. I'm referring to the week 3 content, the Numpy. So Daisy can't see the poll. How did the rest of you see the poll? Did it just flash up on your screen?
Yeah, it just popped up.
Daisy, are you joining this from a phone or from a computer? I'm not sure what to do in case it doesn't show on your end. So 5 people have voted. Okay, I'm going to end this here and do the next one so that we don't spend too much time here. So I don't know, can you see the results? Okay, okay, good. The next one is asking whether you attempted the challenges, whether you did some or didn't try any. Daisy, you still don't see the second one? Oh no, sorry about that. But you can just give me your answer in the chat. So this one is asking whether you attempted all the questions or you did some or you haven't tried the challenges. So most of us haven't tried the challenges. Okay. Okay, so now that I know what most of us have done and not done, I know where to begin. So I'm going to start by addressing some of the areas that some of you raised during the week. And one of those areas was what's it called? The logic behind Numpy and pandas. So basically, Numpy and pandas is built on matrices and vectors. I don't know how many of us, how far we went with our linear algebra in math, especially high school, I mean A-level math. If you're familiar with matrices and vectors, please click yes on this participants thing so that I can have an idea. Matrices and vectors. Okay. Okay, so only 2 people have responded. One is familiar with them, one isn't. What about the rest of us? Okay. So this session is going to be very interactive. I'm not going to be the only one talking because if we do that, I'll not be sure how many of you are following. So I'm going to be picking on you randomly if no one raises their hands when I ask a question. So please, if you know the answer or if you have an idea, you can try to give the answers. But if you don't, I will randomly choose. It doesn't matter whether you've used matrices and vectors in programming. I just want to know if you know what they are and if you've used them before, just even if you've done the calculations on paper. Okay, so let me share my screen. Can you all see my screen? Okay, good. So I've prepared a notebook that goes through different areas, starting with how to create Numpy arrays, and then a brief introduction to matrices and vectors using Numpy. So I'm not going to go so deep into linear algebra because we don't have so much time, but I will just give a brief intro and maybe share resources later on for those who are not familiar to revise on their own. So, so Numpy is a multi-dimensional array and matrix data structures. So what that means is it's basically a combination of very many vectors in rows and columns. So I'm going to also be annotating on my screen. So normally numbers are either just one number or two numbers, but a vector is a combination of numbers to give many dimensions. So many of you are familiar with an XY axis. So a vector can have maybe an X and a Y. If it has an X and a Y, it would have two values, maybe 1 and 2. But then it can have more dimensions than those two. It could be a vector with even 5 values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Numpy helps you store these things in a manageable way. And then it also helps you do algebra on them in a manageable way. The reason we do vectors and we need to know vectors and matrices is that if you've looked at an Excel data sheet, an Excel sheet, it will have maybe rows and columns and different values in those rows and columns. Now, each row is basically a vector. So it's like a combination of very many vectors together to make one big file. So before I go on, do we have any questions? Are we together? Have I lost you?
Maybe my question would be, Cathy, to you, is that
Yeah.
I wasn't here for that part, but did you go through the questions they asked on chat?
Oh yes, I'm trying to go through the first question, which was what is the underlying working of Numpy and pandas. So I was trying to explain maybe what matrices are and what vectors are.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. So the other question someone asked was, how to create an array? And so I've prepared different ways that you can create an array. So the first one would be to create a list and then use np.array and pass that list. So if you look at this cell that I have highlighted, this line creates the list, and this line here passes the list to np.array as an argument. So when I run that cell, I need to import Numpy. So when I run this cell, it creates a Numpy array using this list that I have created. So this array.shape tells you how many rows and how many columns does this array have. So this shows 3, comma. So this tells you that it has 3 rows and Yeah, so this tells you that it has 3 rows. So another way to create, you may want to create an array that has only zeros. So you would use np.zeros and the dimensions you want. So this 3 tells it that you want 3 rows, and this 5 tells you that you want 5 rows. So I've shown you how to create an array, a 3 by 5 array of zeros. Can someone type in the chat how you would create a 6 by 6 array of zeros? So you can type it in the chat and then I will run it here and we see if it actually does that. Anyone? No one? Okay, so I'm going to randomly pick if no one. Yeah, okay, good. I don't see anything in the chat. Okay, someone has put it. Thank you, Tracy. Okay, so yeah, this is how you do it. So in the same way, you could create an array of ones and you basically do the same thing. But if you give it just one argument, then it's just going to create a one-dimensional array. So because this is np.ones and in brackets just 5, so it's going to do 5 columns, 1 row and 5 columns. Another way to create an array is to get a list of lists. So you have one list with very many lists, and then you pass that to np.array, and that can create an array, but its dimensions will depend on how many arrays you give. So this had 1, 2, 3 lists within it. So each list becomes a row. Each list becomes a row. And then, so the first element of every item in each of the lists goes to column 1, and the next element goes to column 2. So I don't know if you can see that clearly. Yes. Down here where the list has been printed.
Yes, we can.
Okay, then, so we're now going to do just a little bit of vector and matrix algebra just for you guys to get an idea on how you do addition.
I have a question before you go. What's the second dimension of that data array? I'm not sure.
This one here?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what you meant. Yeah.
So I printed out the shape down here, and it's a 3 by 2 array. So meaning it has 3 columns and 3 rows and 2 columns. And if you notice here, this is the first row, this is the second row, and this is the third row. Then the first column has 11, 33, and 55, and the second column has 22, 44, and 66. I hope that answers the question.
I think it does, unless there is second axis. She said, sorry, second axis.
The second axis. So an NumPy array has 2 axes. Axis 0 is the rows, axis 1 is the columns. So I'm not very sure I understand what you mean by the second axis.
Lizzie, can you be a little bit clearer as we go? I mean,
yeah. Okay.
I'm referring to the question 1.
Okay. I'll answer that when we get to question 1 in the challenges. So when you're adding vectors, the addition happens element-wise. So what that means is that the first element in the first array will be added to the first element in the second array, and so on and so forth. So if you have a data set and your thing is in different columns, then if you add maybe one column to another, then it will go and look at the first row and add the elements in the first row together. Then it will go to the second row like that. So it doesn't go and mix up rows. It does it row by row. And then the same thing happens in subtraction. It does it row by row. I'm going to be a little fast so that we can go to the challenges real quick and maybe have some time for more questions. So multiplication of vectors also happens element-wise. So it does it row by row. Same thing with division. Now, if you've done vectors, you've probably heard of something called a dot product. And what a dot product does, I need to annotate here. So what if I have a vector 1, 2, 3, and then I do a dot product with another vector 1, 2, 3. So a dot product will not give you a vector, it will give you a scalar value. And how it happens is that this element is multiplied with this element, you get 1. And then, Tracy can't see the screen. Does anyone else not see the screen?
No, I think Tracy has a problem sometimes.
Internet. Oh no, sorry, Tracy. Tracy, maybe you can try leaving and rejoining the meeting. I think the problem is your internet. So the 1 and 1 are multiplied, and then the 2 and 2 are multiplied to give you 4, and then you add it to the previous one, and then 3 and 3 are also multiplied, and then you add that, and then the total is 14, which is what we got here. And then you may multiply a vector with another number, because when you're looking at a data set, maybe you may want to do some calculations and you want to multiply maybe all the columns with a certain number. So if you create your vector and multiply that vector with a certain number, all the elements in that vector will be multiplied by that number. So your resulting vector will be the product of that number and each of the elements. So if you notice, 1 times 0.1 gave us, 1 times 0.5 gave us 0.5, 2 times 0.5 gave us 1, 3 times 0.5 gave us 1.5. So it multiplied each of the elements with the scalar that it was given. So moving on to matrices. So matrices are like a combination of vectors. So you don't just have one vector, you have many vectors and they are arranged in terms of rows and columns. So you create it using np.array and you pass it maybe a list of lists. So this is a list with 2 lists inside it, and I think we had done something similar above. So this creates, so because the lists inside have three elements each, it will create a matrix with 3 columns and 2 rows. So when we go to matrix algebra, if we look at addition first, addition also happens element-wise, just like in vectors. So it will go into the matrix, look for the first row, and look at the element, the first element in the first row, and then it will go to the second matrix, look for the element in a similar position to the one you just found, and then it will add them together. I don't know if I make sense, if I'm making sense there. So if we try to have a, like, pay attention to how this addition happened. So the first row had a 1, which is this. And then the first row in the second matrix also has a 1. And it added those to get a 2. Then if we look at the second row, and the last value in the second row, it's 6. The next column also has a 6 in that same position. It adds the 2 to give you 12. So subtraction also happens the same way. And multiplication. So there are different kinds of multiplication. I am going to focus on the one that happens element-wise, and it's also called the Hadamard product. I don't know why. Maybe he's the person who came up with it. But yeah, so element-wise means look for the, go to matrix A, find the element in a particular position, go to matrix B, find the element in the same position as the one in A, and then multiply them together to get your resulting matrix. The division also happens in the same way. So this notebook isn't on GitHub, but I'll be sharing it so that you can go through it during your own time. Then there is the matrix dot product. So when you do a dot product, it will do something similar to what the vectors did, but it's a little different because now you're dealing with more than one row. So let's maybe try to see how this happened. So the first matrix has, this is the first matrix, this is the second matrix. So how did the dot product happen? Let me maybe try to write it here. So you have 1, 3, and 5, 2, 4, and 6. And then you have 1, 3, and 2, 4. So this is a 3 by 2, and this is a 2 by 3. I mean a 2 by 2. So the fact that they have the same number of columns, it means you will be able, the number of columns here is equal to the number of rows here, so you will be able to do this dot product. If the number of columns in this first matrix was different from the number of rows here, then you wouldn't be able to do the dot product of those two matrices. So how this happens, this first row will go and be multiplied with this first column. So you have 1 times 1 plus 2 times 3, and that will give you 4. And then you're going to move on to this second row and also multiply it by that same column, and whatever you get, you'll add it to this first value. Then you do the third row, whatever you get, add to this value. So you're going to have one number here. And then we move on to do the next row. So you get these elements in the first row, multiply them by this second column to give you the values that will go in the second column. You do the next one and the next one and the next one. So it's basically just a repeat. I think it will be clearer when you get this notebook and see what's happening by yourself. So I'm going to skip some of these because it's a repetition. So there's something called the transpose of a matrix. So what the transpose, does anyone know what a transpose is before I answer it? Maybe one of you can tell us what a transpose is. Anyone? Charles, could you tell us what a transpose of a matrix is?
Yeah, Charles, you've been too quiet.
I don't really remember.
Okay. Does anyone remember?
Let's try.
So if you have even a slight idea, you can try.
Is it like if it's a row, then when you transpose it becomes into a column? Like for example, if you take 1, 2 in row form, like I'm seeing there, then after transposing it, it becomes a column moving out from a row.
Yes, it's something like that, something similar to that. So someone in the chat says it's like exchanging, and yes, that's true. So let me give a demonstration. If you have a 2 by 2 column, 1, 2, 3, 4, if you transpose this matrix, the rows will become the columns. So this 1, 3 will become the first column, and 2, 4 will become the next column. So that's it. And then there is inverse of a matrix. I don't know if you guys know how to compute inverse. It's a long process. I'm not going to try and explain it here, but using Numpy has a way for you to get the inverse using numpy.linalg, which I think is short for linear algebra. So you can import inverse from numpy.linalg, and then you just pass the matrix you want to get, the matrix whose inverse you want to get. You just pass it as an argument to this function inv, and then it does it for you. So that's it. Okay. So I'll share this notebook so that you guys can go through the rest of the things. We're running out of time, so I'm going to jump into the next notebook, which was the challenges that we went through. I need to reshare my screen. So can you all see the screen?
Yeah, we could even see the first time. You don't have Sandra's problems.
I think I had only shared one screen also.
It turns out we could see when you changed windows. When you changed tabs, yeah, we could see.
Okay. So many of us hadn't gone through the challenges, so I don't know if I should share the notebook which doesn't have the answers so that we can do it now, or I should just run through the one with the answers already. Anyway, so okay, someone says I should do the one without. Okay.
New notebook, maybe.
No, I have one
okay.
with just the questions and not the answers.
Oh, okay. I keep versioning that one. Anyways, you when you push it will be only those parts that we've done here.
Yeah. Okay. So the first question was to compute the mean, standard deviation, and variance. And I think you guys have tried it out, so I'm going to give you a chance. Someone type into the chat, how would I compute the mean? Someone else do the standard deviation, and another person do the variance. I'm waiting for your answers so that I can run them here. No one?
Guys, you can even use Google right now.
Yes.
Okay, so we have
Okay.
from Daisy.
So Daisy has answered.
The mean. Lois, get ready to answer the next one. You've been too quiet. Anna too.
Thank you, Daisy. I think this is the right way to get the mean. Anna has given us how to compute the variance. Thank you, Anna.
Lois.
So someone to give us the standard deviation. So you can either use the built-in Numpy functions, or you could even use the functions from Python. So for example, for the mean, you could also have done data.mean, and the two should give us the same answer.
Peace, you can also chip in. Lois or Peace, can we get an answer?
No
For
one knows how to do the standard deviation?
the standard deviation.
Okay,
Oh,
someone.
Lois has something.
Yes.
Did she mean maybe parenthesis? I'm not sure though.
Yes.
Okay.
I think this should be this.
Yeah, I think Lois should have put instead of, and also you maybe need
So
to do that.
yeah, I think the NumPy function for standard deviation is std.
Yeah.
Yes, I think in Python, in the math library has math.standard stdev. Maybe that's the one that confused you. Okay, so after computing this, so the reason I'm making you learn how to do this is because when you continue with the statistics part, you will realize that it's important to know these values about your data sets. I'm not going to go into why, because you will meet that in the future. So we have this array, which is it has three columns. Sorry, it has 2 columns and 3 rows, and I see what Daisy was asking. Variance of a given array along the second axis. Yeah. I think I meant along the second row, and I confused all of you. So how would we compute the mean of this array on the second row? How would we compute the mean of the second row? Anyone? So first we'd need to extract the second row. So let's see how we'll do that. You'd need to use some indexing techniques. So to select the second row indices start from 0. So the second row would be 1. So I would do 1, comma, and select all the columns.
So maybe
No, this doesn't do it actually. I need to do 1, 2. Huh. Can can anyone remind me how to select the second row? I seem to have forgotten. Anyone?
Second row.
Yes, second row.
This is a list of lists.
So let's first print that data so that we see. Yeah, so I'm actually right. Huh? Okay. So this is the second row, 33 and 44. So you select the second row, you can, so if I did this, that should have worked.
Second row is on index 1 though. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now after getting your second row, then you just compute the mean and the standard deviation just the same way you did it on all the data. Okay, so the next question is for you to reshape your array into a 1-column array. So right now it has 3 rows and 2 columns. So we want it to have 1 column and 6 rows. Can someone write the code into the chat? How would we do that? We want it to have 1 column and 6 rows. How would we do that? Anyone? Okay, so to save time, I'm going to just do it. So if the way you decide how to do it, let me give you a small formula. If the first one, oh yes, Anna has given us an answer. Thank you, Anna. If the first, so it was a 3 by 2. So you multiply this and it gives you 6. So when you're reshaping, you need to make sure that the 2 values you give, if you multiply them, they should also give you 6. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So let me give you an example. If I did maybe 1 by 3, it wouldn't work because your array of size 6 cannot be shaped into this. That means you're leaving out some values and you need to be able to put all the values after your reshape. That's why you need to make sure the product of this adds to the product of the previous shape. I mean, is the same. So I generated an array of random variables for us to use here. Can we use flatten as well? I haven't used flatten to do this, but we can try it out here and see what it gives us. Do you know the syntax for flatten?
Daisy.
So what does that F stand for? Oh, it seems to do the same thing. So you guys can go and read about flatten in the documentation. I will also be doing this considering this is the first time I've used it before, and then see how it works.
Thank you, Daisy. You see, you guys, we all learn from each other.
Yes. So the next thing, yeah, so the next part of the exercises, we generated this big array of random numbers using np.random. So np.random.seed, putting a value here in the seed lets me generate the same array every time. So if I change this number, I would get a different array. So keeping this number constant helps me get the same array every time I run this cell. So after using the array, after creating the array, you have some questions here. So what's the average of the second column? Anyone show us how to get the second column from this array? I just chose 21 randomly because they are random numbers anyway, so any number can work. It just gives you, if I used 0, it would still be fine. So how can I get the second column of this array? It's called random integers. How can I get the second column? I want the second column and all the rows.
The average of the second column.
Yes. Anyone?
You guys, we did a mean. Mean is also the average.
Yes. Should I pick randomly? Tracy, can you now see the screen? I don't know if you're still having the same problem. Anna, any idea how to get the second column?
Okay, we have something from Daisy.
Someone has. Thank you, Daisy. Yes, so you get the second column. So this first one here that just has a semicolon means select all the rows and then select just the first, select just the second column. So that gives us the value. And then question 4 asks you for the sum of the first 5 rows of the third and fourth columns. And someone give us the code for that.
Peace, Yada. You guys have been awfully quiet. Anything? Let me get the sum from you guys.
Pardon?
Peace and Ziada have been very quiet. Maybe they can help us.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, don't be afraid of making mistakes. We're not going to laugh at you. And if you make a mistake and then you're corrected, you're most likely to never forget how to do that thing than if you just sit and watch.
Very true.
Okay.
So Tracy
Thank you, Tracy.
has written some code.
So she created a new array that selects the first 5 rows and the 2 columns. So when you print out her array, let's see if it actually gets the first 5 rows. So, okay, so the third column is here and the fourth. So these are the values I expect to see. The first being this, and I think she got that right. If you notice, this is it. Yeah, thank you, Tracy. So how would you reverse the columns of your array? So what I mean by reverse is this first column to become the first one and this first one. So basically to flip it. How would you do that? How would you flip this array? How would you flip it on the columns? Daisy, what should I repeat? Or what I mean by reverse? Okay, so what I mean is I want this first column to become the first the one that was second will become the second last. This one will stay in the middle. So it sort of flips it, like twist it so that what was at the head becomes the bottom and what was the bottom becomes the head. I don't know if that's clear. All right. So could someone tell us how to do this? How would we flip the columns? I'll give you 30 seconds to think about it. Okay, no one knows how to do this?
Would that be a transpose, perhaps?
No, a transpose does not really flip it in this way that I am describing.
Okay, so Tracy, I think, has something.
Yes, thank you, Tracy. So this, what Tracy has given us is almost right. So I asked for us to split, to reverse the columns. So can anyone identify can anyone see the mistake Tracy made? It's a really, really small mistake. You may not notice it, but let's see if any of you does.
Daisy also has something when we finish with the Tracy's.
Yes, I will. So yes, axis 1. So Tracy has realized her mistake. So the formula Tracy has given us reverses the rows. So for her, what she has done, she has made the first row the last one and the second row the last one. So let me maybe add a comment here that this flips the rows, and then we can write the one for the columns here. Thank you, Tracy. Yeah. So let's try Daisy's formulas. Yes, Daisy, this seems to work.
So that's the method.
It does.
Thank you, Daisy.
Yeah. So Daisy has shared the third one. Let's see if that also works. Yeah, this also works. Awesome.
So many ways to skin a goat.
Yes. So your next question is to get the transpose of that array, of that random integers array. How would you do it? This time I hope it's not Daisy and Tracy who answer. I hope someone else who hasn't tried can try. Anna, Lois, Ziada, Peace. Give it a try. Charles. Okay, someone. Okay, thank you, Anna. So yes, you can use the transpose function to do it. Anyone else know another way to do it? Okay, so one other way would be to do random integers. Dot P. Yeah, those are the two ways I know, but I'm sure there are more ways to do this. So that was it for the Numpy. Now we're going to quickly run through the pandas exercises. So the first one was to convert that array of random integers into a data frame with the column names 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Anyone know how to do that? Okay, so maybe you may not know the syntax, but can you give us a description of what you think we should do? Maybe you can tell me, create this, then create that, and I'll just follow your steps and do them. Nothing?
Tracy says first import pandas.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, next I'll make a list. I'll make a list with the column names. So and then I create the data frame with pd.dataframe. And then I pass it the array that I want, which is random integers. And then I also tell it what column names I want. Oh. And that is the data frame. Oh, I need to put it in a variable. So I hope that's clear. The next question was asking you to show the summary statistics of these variables in the data frame. So can someone quickly do this? So we don't have much time. So if you don't give me the answers quickly, I'm going to just do it because we're almost out of time. So to do the summary,
Or keep it and not do it actually, and wait for everyone else to try.
yes, we could also do that. How would I show the summary statistics?
Maybe we can get an explanation on what summary statistics are if we don't already know.
Okay, so that's, by summary statistics, I mean for it to give us, like for each, so you see there are 5 variables, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I would want to see maybe how many values are in the variable 1, what is its mean, standard deviation. So there's a function in pandas that gives you all these things at once. So I'd like to see you use this function. So Tracy has given us something to try. So let me try it and see. Yes, this is how you do it. So it gives you the count in each of the rows. It gives you the mean, standard deviation, the minimum, the 25th percentile, 50th percentile, 75th, and the maximum. Thank you, Tracy. How would you create a correlation matrix of the 5 variables? So correlation means how is one variable related to another, and it ranges between -1 and 1. So if it's negative, then that means the two variables are negatively related, meaning as one increases, the other one decreases. And then if it's a positive value, they are positively correlated, and as one increases, the other also increases. So we want a matrix that shows us all the correlations between the different variables. How would we do that?
So what would show the relationship between all the variables? That's what correlation basically means, a relationship.
Anyone? Okay, I think we're going to stop here for today because we have only 3 minutes remaining. So maybe Eva can give us some last words.
All right, thank you, Kathy. I wanted to go through OOP. I don't know if, because it's Tracy that asked this question yesterday, I don't know if she still has the same problem with OPP, or maybe she understood it better. She took some more time to understand it better. Tracy, do you still have a problem with OPP? OOP, sorry. Object-oriented programming. Because I think we are done with pandas and Numpy for today. Tracy? Okay, so you just wanted to understand the concepts. So what exactly about the concept didn't you understand from the material that was given? What was a bit confusing that we can help with over? Okay, you understood later. Okay, no problem. That's fine. All right then, guys. Thank you for today. Unless there's any other questions, we will leave it at that and continue our conversation online. Are there any other questions? All right, looks like there are no more questions.
Okay, if there are no more questions, I guess we can end here for today. Have a good weekend, everybody.
All right, guys, thank you. Great weekend to you too.